Cash, Mr. Jay Galbraith, Mrs. Sheila Cleveland, Candace Emerson, Mr. Eric Welch, Ms. Nancy Garrett to please stand.
Thank you, Dr. Looney. If you would, raise your right hand and repeat after me. In the areas that it calls for your name, I'll let you say your name, and we'll get to the portion for your district. Repeat, give your district number. And congratulations to all of you. I do solemnly swear that I will perform with fidelity the duties of the office to which I have been appointed and which I'm about to assume. I do solemnly swear to support the constitutions of Tennessee and the United States and to faithfully perform the duties of the office member of the Board of Education representing your district of Williamson County. Congratulations to all of you.
Mr. Mayor, I know I'm speaking on behalf of the board. Thank you so much for your dedication and your support of Williamson County Schools and for your presence tonight in this important ceremony. At this time, I'd like to call the Williamson County School Board meeting for September 17th to order. Board members, please record your attendance. Let the record show that all board members are present and we have a quorum. I'd at this time like to thank the two deputies that are here tonight to provide safety and security on behalf of the public and the board, Deputy Harold Reed and Deputy Eddie Kutras. Thank you very much for being here, gentlemen. Board members, at this time, we're going to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll lead that, and we're going to ask Casey Hall to lead the moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Thankfully, my position in this seat is going to be very short-lived. Board members, at this annual meeting, it's time for us to select a chairman and vice chairman. At this point in time, I will be opening the floor for nominations for chairman of the school board. Are there any nominations, other nominations coming from the floor? We have a nomination from Mr. Welch and a second for Mr. Gary Anderson to serve as the chairman of the board. There being no other nominations at this time, I'd like to close the nominations. Board members, if you select Gary Anderson as your chair, please hit the yes button. No for no. Please record.
Is it ready, Brian? Okay. Thank you very much, board members. I very much appreciate your confidence in my ability to lead the board as we enter another great year of Williamson County Schools. I've always felt we have the best pre-K through 12 district in the state of Tennessee, and I continue to believe that with all my heart. So thank you very much for your confidence in me. And at this time, we need to move on to the election of a school board vice chair. Do we have any nominations? Ms. Emerson.
I'd like to nominate Nancy Garrett.
Thank you. We have a nomination. Second. We have a second from Mr. Cash. Mr. Hall, you were up there to speak. Did you? No? Okay. Anyone else like to nominate someone as vice chair? Okay. I see none. Then we're ready to vote. If you would like to see Ms. Garrett as our vice chairman. On, if you'd like to say a few words.
Thank you to my fellow board members. I know you hear me say this a lot, but our schools are really my passion. My family has 3 generations of investment in the Williamson County schools, and I love what we do, and I love being part of this team. So thank you all.
All right, we're ready to move on to our next item, which is the public comment section for our meeting. We have 7 people who wish to speak this evening. You have 3 minutes for each person to speak. If you come up and state your address and your subject that you would wish to speak on. And Nancy, do you have the timer?
I have my own personal
timer.
timer.
She has a timer over there to keep up with the time. Our first speaker is Meredith Smith.
Hello. Hi, thank you so much for having me here tonight. I have Mark King with me from Williamson Medical Center. He's the Assistant Director for the EMS system. And I'm so excited to be here tonight because part of what we do at the American Heart Association is we supply schools with hands-only CPR kits. We want to train as many high school students before they graduate as possible in this life-saving technique. And through our partnership with Williamson Medical Center, we are so excited to announce that we are supplying Page High School with 2 hands-only CPR kits. And without that partnership with Williamson Medical Center, we wouldn't be able to do this. So I want to introduce Mark, and thanks so much for having me here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's nice to be here with y'all. Congratulations to everybody that took the oath of office tonight. That's an exciting time. As she said, I'm with Williamson Medical Center, more specifically the EMS department, and we are kind of in the business of healthcare. So we understand about the importance of CPR. And I can tell you, hands-only CPR or full-fledged CPR makes a difference in a lot of people's lives. We know that you are 2 to 3 times more likely to survive a sudden cardiac death event if there's somebody there that knows CPR and willing to do it. And so we're excited about this. We've trained a lot of students throughout Williamson County, and Paige does a great job. We're excited at Williamson Medical Center to partner with the American Heart Association and provide these kits, and we know that they'll be used and provide a lot of great education. So thank you so much.
Yes. Want to stand? How much time do we have left?
You're good. Taking a photo.
I would like for y'all to go around there if you would, so we can get a shot. Just right. I will do my best. Sure. You want me to? I do. I'm gonna have to just for a minute because.
But I can do that to you too.
Okay. Okay. We can do it. All right, y'all ready? Go this way. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. We'll try it this way. All right, now here I go with these. Thank you so much. No problem. Okay. Everybody smile. This camera. Okay, we'll go this way. Whoops, my finger. You don't want my finger in the picture. Okay.
Right back up to each other. Thank you all very much. Okay, our next speaker is Sarah Bergelsdorf.
Hello, my name is Sarah Bengelsdorf. I have been corresponding with the board about my concerns that the senior exam exemption policy is unfair to students who observe religious holidays that are not on the school calendar. The current policy states that a student who has an A average and no more than 6 excused absences per semester is exempt from taking exams. This policy excludes absences due to college visits and school field trips, but not for religious reasons. My children are Jewish, and in this first semester alone, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur account for 3 excused absences, 50%. Most Christian children do not have to take excused religious absences because WCS schedules its days off around Christmas and Good Friday. In a quick internet search, I was able to find over 10 school systems in the U.S. that recognize the importance of having an exam exemption policy that excludes religious absences. One of these is Metro Nashville. Their policy under their exemption from semester examinations states, all absences, excused and unexcused, count toward exam exemption unless they fall within an exception. Absences due to college visits or recognized religious holidays regularly observed by persons of the child's faith will not be counted against the student as long as proper documentation is provided. I found similar policies in Georgia, North Carolina, and Texas. In Durham, North Carolina, and Enrico County, Virginia, they take it a step further to exclude both religious holidays and documented medical appointments and illnesses. I have heard concerns from some board members that if religious absences were excluded, it would demonstrate favoritism toward a particular religion. The religious absent exception should apply to all recognized religions, and some may argue that WCS is already showing favoritism by giving days off around major Christian holidays. I am aware that the board devised an appeals process in which students can meet with the superintendent should they exceed 6 excused absences due to extraordinary circumstances. I do not believe that being Jewish or Muslim, for example, constitutes an extraordinary circumstance, or that non-Christian students should have to defend themselves because of their faith. Further, as the current exam exemption policy is written, WCS is inadvertently encouraging children to go to school when they are sick and or forego their religious practices in order to achieve this exam exemption reward. There are different options that the board has in order to make the policy fair. They can adopt Nashville's policy, or they can base the current policy on unexcused absences versus excused absences. Alternatively, they can do what the Collierville, Tennessee school system did last year when a Muslim student petitioned the board for this very same issue: get rid of semester exams altogether. This is what high-ranking school systems like Montgomery County, Maryland, and Loudoun County, Virginia did. Williamson County is becoming more diverse, and other faiths should be recognized. For now, I am asking that the board move to make an immediate decision to exclude religious absences from the senior exam policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jake Bergelsdorf.
Members of the board, principals, I'm Jake Bengelsdorf, and I'm a senior at Franklin High School, and I'm Jewish. As a religious minority in Williamson County, you are awarded two options when the holidays come around. You can either A, sacrifice your beliefs for exemptions, or B, sacrifice your health for exemptions. 2 weeks ago, I attended synagogue for the first and second day of Rosh Hashanah, read Torah and Haftorah, actively subsumed my Judaism on one of the holiest days of my year. I felt a sense of attainment and fulfillment, but was soon robbed of it when I got a fever that night and knew that I had to go to school the next day. My religion had already cost me 2 absences, and I knew I need to use another one this Wednesday for Yom Kippur. So I went to school in layers, trembling with cold sweats, led outside to take a senior picture, eventually losing consciousness in the middle of the football field, and then I had to be carried off and driven while completely incapacitated to the nurse's office. What if I passed out walking alone in the hallway? What if this happened on the concrete? What if this happened on the drive home from school that day? What if this happened to every other Jewish and Muslim kid in Williamson County? Unfortunately, that is and will continue to be a possibility for every second that this policy continues to stay in effect. In fact, at my school, most religious minorities are choosing exemptions over their own religious beliefs. Williamson County is creating a toxic environment for fostering religious diversity and growth for minorities with this policy. And I've heard too many disappointed faces say they had to go to school so that they could be exempt, so that they wouldn't have to study for 50 hours, that they would try and fast for Yom Kippur during the school day. I chose religion this Rosh Hashanah, and I don't want to live in a world where I have to make that choice. I don't want to go to a school where kids have to make that choice, where a student must either study for another 50 hours and risk their grades or attend school defeated and bereft of their own convictions. Religious absences should not be counted against students in the exemption process. Students should not receive truancy threat letters because of their religion, and students should not have to take their own time and appeal to Dr. Looney just because of their religion. I'd like to end with a quote from Metro Nashville Public Schools educational absence policy that was mentioned before. All absences, excused and unexcused, count towards exam exemptions unless they fall within these exceptions. Absences due to college visit or recognized religious holidays will not be counted against the student. It is with the utmost respect and aplomb that I urge for the changing of this policy so that the students and families of Williamson County religious minorities will feel safe, appreciated, and equal to their majority counterpart. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lauren Herman.
Hello, I am a parent of 2 students at Franklin High School. As you already know, chronic absenteeism can negatively affect a student's grades, their test scores, and even their likelihood of graduation. When a student is struggling in school and at risk of failing or not graduating, it is reasonable to consider the absences, both excused and unexcused, as a possible contributor to the difficulties. But for students who are able to maintain A or B averages, those concerns are clearly less relevant, if relevant at all. When looking at absences, excused absences, especially those with documentation from a doctor stating an illness, or a note from an appropriate person documenting a religious observance, those should not be counted against a student's qualification for an award or when determining a consequence. And it can even encourage, as you've heard, students to come to school sick, delaying their own recuperation and putting the health of other students and teachers at risk for no purpose whatsoever. Even when a student is struggling, the state encourages schools to reach out to families in a positive manner, to see what help might be needed and to offer support. In those cases, punishments lead to an adversarial relationship between students and school administration when the student isn't most in need of their support. When the risk of not graduating or failing a year is minimal at best, holding excused absences against them is unnecessarily punitive and without merit. Other than the state-mandated chronic absenteeism requirement, excused absences should be exempt from all calculations for awards and consequences. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Helen Crowley.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to speak. My name is Helen Crowley, and currently I have one student enrolled at Franklin High School. I think we can all agree that the best place for a student to be during the day is in instructional time. However, sorry, I can't see it. That's not always possible. Students get sick, they have religious holidays, and they need to visit colleges during the weekday. Williamson County has a policy in place to accommodate sick days and college visits, but they exclude religious holidays. To avoid making students choose between their religious commitments and enjoy the rewards they earn as a good student, I would propose Williamson County amend their policy to include all recognized religious holidays as excused absences, similar to the policies in place in Davidson County, Shelby, Knox, Hamilton, Robertson, and multiple other counties in Tennessee. The policy should allow any work missed to be made up without penalty. I do want to say one thing, and I would love to invite you all to come visit our congregation, which is the West End Synagogue. We would love to have you for Yom Kippur, which is on Wednesday. You don't have to fast, we do. Or any Saturday morning service. Just let us know. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Melissa Sostrin.
Thank you. I am the mother of a senior at Franklin High School and the aunt of a freshman there. I am also here to express my main concern about the religious absence policy. I'm not so worried about exemptions or getting a better parking spot. My son is a little bit lazy. He can walk farther. So, but my concern touches on the moment of silence that we had after the pledge. Maybe some of you were thinking, I got to go home and walk the dog, I got to finish dinner, or like me, I have to finish cooking the holiday meal for tomorrow night. But maybe most of us were talking to the man upstairs. And this policy puts so much pressure on our kids to feel pressure about that relationship. It's not a relationship that they should feel pressure, like a friend of mine whose daughter missed 3 tests on Rosh Hashanah, or somebody who last year was told by their teacher when they got home from 5 hours of being in synagogue and spending a family meal to just do their homework. Or the pressure of my niece who has so much anxiety that she is almost in tears when she thinks about missing school. So I work at Micah Children's Academy, and I had a conversation with the rabbi there. She has had congregants come to her and say their children are choosing to not go to services. And I mean, she's a pretty entertaining rabbi, but they feel so much pressure that they are choosing not to go to synagogue. And these are the days we call Yamim Noraim. Between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, they're the days of awe, days of wonder. They are our Easter, Christmas, all rolled into one. And our kids are feeling this pressure to make the choice to not spend time with their religious community, with their family, and with God. And that is pretty sad. So thank you for thinking about it.
Thank you. Okay, that was our last speaker for this evening. Our next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Anyone like to make a motion to approve the agenda? Or any changes, adjustments? We have a motion from Mr. Mitchell. Did you second?
Yes.
A second from Ms. Cleveland. Any discussion or questions? Let's see. Okay, I see none. If you'd go ahead then and record your votes. The machine is clicking the sound off when we vote on something. Sorry. The next item is the approval of the consent agenda. I'd like to make a motion for the consent agenda. Motion from Mr. Welch. We have a second from Mr. Hall. Any discussion on these? Okay, I see none. If you go ahead and record your votes on that.
Your vote is 12 yes, 0 no.
Thank you, Board. By the approval of the consent agenda, the Board approved the August 20, 2018 School Board meeting minutes, the Board policies on second reading, Policy 1.803, Tobacco-Free Schools, 4.605, Graduation Requirements, 5.1061, Criminal Background Checks, 6.412, Student Wellness. Also approved recommendations for the field trip fee requests, collaborative conferencing team, the calendar committee membership for the board, and the City of Spring Hill request for emergency access easement to new development. Our next item is communications to the board. Dr. Looney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Welcome back, and congratulations to all of those that have either been re-elected or first elected. I would like to just take a moment and acknowledge the public speakers tonight. Thank you so much for your input in engaging the board. This is a complicated issue, and our staff is working on that particular policy to come forward with a recommendation. To be frank with you, there are a number of staff members that believe we should not allow exemptions at all, that in order to prepare students adequately for college, they need to take as many exams as possible. But we're looking at that issue, and we'll be sending something back to you hopefully at the next policy meeting or the one thereafter. I'd like to report to you tonight that our enrollment as of today is 40,492 students. That's pre-K through 12. 40,492 students. Things are going very well across the district. Buses seem to be running on time for the most part. We continue to have staffing challenges in all department areas. That's primarily because of the very low unemployment rate here. So please send your friends to consider employment in Williamson County. At this time, I'd like to recognize Mrs. Carol Birdsong, who has a number of recognitions to give tonight to students and staff.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Looney. We are going to start with perfect ACT scores. And we have 3 students from Franklin. We're going to recognize them individually. And Miss Dickerson has asked if we could bring them all 3 up so she could take a group picture that she can tweet out. So we're going to honor that request. So we're going to start with Louise. If you'll come on up. Miss Dickerson, if you will come on up too. We have, and this is Luis Sanchez Boedo. And Luis's family, if you want to take a picture of him with Miss Dickerson, please do so right this very minute. And congratulations. And then we'll bring them all back up here in just a minute. So thank you, Louise. And next we have Olivia Bird. So Olivia, if you will come on up and receive your medal. Olivia also earned a perfect ACT composite score. Smile for those photos, please. Nicely done. Thank you, Olivia. And our third honoree this evening is Kate Sanborn, also from Franklin High School, with a perfect ACT score. And if I could get you all 3 back up. Oh, you want me to take it? Of you in there? Yes. Oh, yes. Come on. Move to approve. Hop on in there. Okay. Look at me real fast, y'all. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Very nice. Okay. Now, families, please. Sorry. All right, very nice. Congratulations. And next, we are going to honor some cheerleaders. And we have 7 young ladies who have been named All-State Cheerleaders. The first one is Hannah Hahn from Brentwood High School. Second, we have, no, I'm sorry, that was Madison Cunningham. This is Hannah Hahn, both from Brentwood High School. Their cheer coach is Amanda Bisak. From Franklin High School, this is Megan Wemple. I'm not sure if I said that correctly, but she is an all-state cheerleader, and her coaches are Shannon Frood and Rachel Berzina. Ooh, sorry, y'all. Okay, and we have 4 all-state cheerleaders from Ravenwood High School. This is Signe D'Agostino. This is Bree Fick. This is Lindsay Sybee and Megan Zaves. Their cheer coaches are Stephanie Dykes and Katie Cagle. Congratulations to those ladies. And now we are going to move into staff spotlights. And they're really all about the arts here in our staff spotlights. This is Michelle Vinci from Fairview Middle School. And Michelle has been named the Middle Level Art Educator of the Year by the Tennessee Art Education Association. And not only did a Williamson County Schools teacher earn this honor, but we had another Williamson County Schools teacher, Andrea Howard from Independence, earn the Secondary Art Educator of the Year award from the TAEA. And not to be outdone, this is Beth Offelter from Summit High School, who was named the National Art Honor Society sponsor of the year. Congratulations to all of our staff members and to our students.
Mr. Chairman, board members, I'd like to make one other preview. Late this Friday afternoon, the Department of Education will announce reward schools. We'll have a baker's dozen or so schools be recognized on late Friday afternoon, so please stand by for that announcement. That completes my report, Mr. Chairman and board members.
Thank you. Board members have any questions for Dr. Looney? Comments? Okay, I see none. The next item is the board chairman's report. Just want to remind everyone that we have our retreat scheduled for this Wednesday, starting at 2 o'clock, and it'll be in our regular meeting room over at the maintenance facility. The college fair is this Wednesday. It starts at 5:30 and runs till about 8 o'clock. It's a great event. And there's many, over 100 colleges typically that are there recruiting Williamson County students, and we're very proud that they want our students. So it's a really good event to go see if you have the chance to get there. I'd also like to thank the Page Middle Choir under the direction of Molly Wineland, who was here to serenade us before the meeting, and they did an excellent job, and we appreciate them being here to sing for us this evening. Does anyone have any questions for me about anything? Okay, see nothing. Next item is unfinished business. We have none, so we move into new business. The first one is the 2018-19 school board budget. The first one is general purpose school fund amendment, Safe Schools Initiative. Dr. Looney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. As you're aware, based on what we discussed at the work session, we were fortunate to receive $668,050 for our school safe schools initiative as a result of a grant from the governor's office. Do recommend approval of receiving that money.
Anyone like to make a motion for that? We have a motion from Mr. Wimberly, and we have a second from Ms. Cleveland. Any further discussion? Okay, I see none. You have the director's recommendation. If you go ahead and record your votes, please. The next item is General Purpose School Fund Resolution, Nurse for Centennial High School. Dr. Looney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Thank you so much for continuing to support nurses in our schools. We appreciate having access to each one of those in each of our schools. From time to time, we get a student that requires additional attention That's the case at Centennial High School. We're in need of a second nurse to deal with specific medical conditions. Do recommend your approval.
Anyone like to make a motion for this? Mr. Hall makes a motion, and Ms. Garrett seconds that motion. And we have any questions or comments on this one? Okay, I see none. We have the director's recommendation. If you go ahead and record your votes, please.
Your vote is 12 yes, 0 no.
Thank you, Board. The next item is another 2018-19 school board budget, general purpose school fund resolution, a secretary for Franklin High School Annex. Dr. Looney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. We're utilizing the annex in a very efficient, effective way. One of the things that we've learned based on Mrs. Dickerson's feedback is we need a consistent adult that's stationary there to provide additional support. I do recommend approval of this.
Anyone like to make a motion for this one? We have a motion from Mr. Mitchell, second from Mr. Cash. Any comments or discussions on this one? Okay, I see none. We have the director's recommendation. If you go ahead and record your votes, please.
Your vote is 12 yes, 0 no.
Thank you, Board. The next one is the general purpose school fund resolution for the Entrepreneurial Innovation Center Administrator. Dr. Looney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. This has been added at your request. I do recommend approval of this exciting program, and this will allow us to select someone to begin to put the puzzle pieces together.
Anyone like to make a motion on this one? Ms. Emerson's motion. Anyone like to second it? Second from Mr. Welch. Any further discussion on this one? Mr. Welch.
Thank you. So, Gary, I think you made a, well, there was a lot of good discussion on this at the work session the other night, and it was really exciting to see all of the motivation behind this. It's a truly wonderful program and has just an amazing amount of potential. Really excited about this. But, Gary, you made a great point, and I just wanted to bring it up again tonight that tonight's the easy part. It's real easy to vote for this. Obviously, this is a wonderful program that we should really have. It has the potential to really benefit our students, but it's an extra program. It's not providing the bare basics, and there's nothing wrong with that. This is something that's special. This is something that has the potential to make us an exceptional district, and has the potential to really support and encourage entrepreneurship among our students and lead them on to great things. In fact, I think this has the potential to have more ROI than probably anything else that we do. But it is something that is going to have costs associated with it. So I hope everyone votes for it tonight and supports it, but please keep in mind that if you do vote for it tonight, you are obligating yourself to continue to push for the funding of this and support this and fight for it. And that's going to be the difficult things. It's going to be down the road when the cameras aren't on, having to expend political capital, kind of putting yourself out there. So as we go forward with that, I just want us all to move forward with that in mind, clear eyes, and encourage you to vote for it, but do so knowingly that, you know, it puts on, you're taking on the fight, I guess is the easiest way to put that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cash.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just, I look at this program as how we're working and how we're thinking as a board and a staff out of the box. You know, we're putting a science curriculum that was developed here in Williamson County Schools by teachers and administrators is in the school today. Next year, a social studies curriculum. We launched a pilot program on online training. And I think this is just more proof of what Williamson County wants to do for our students, and that and that's to give them every opportunity in every way we can for the best education. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Looney, a couple of questions about this. What we're voting for here, I guess, is creating a line item in the budget for this position. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct. You're allowing us to add an FTE and to create a position of director for the center.
Okay, and yeah, so that was kind of, we've got an entrepreneur admin. So this title will be director?
Yes, sir.
Title. And do you have a, do we have a job description for this person, or that's something I guess we've got to create the FTE first and then you'll?
No, sir, we have created a job description for that.
Okay, do we have an idea of what the salary range for this position is going to be, or where the level is for it?
Yes, sir. The director's position is a pretty broad category as far as compensation goes. I believe the bottom end is 70 and the top end is about 120.
Okay, and I'm sorry, so maybe we covered some of this Thursday, but I'll ask it again. Is this going to be, this is an administrator's position as opposed to a educator's position then?
So I'm really glad you asked the question. The job description does not require the person to be an educator. It's a factor that we'll look at.
Right.
We're looking at someone that has experience in an entrepreneurial setting that can help students realize that dream. And so it could very well be someone with an education background. It is just as likely it's someone from the business community that has owned and operated businesses in the past and knows all about going from concept to fruition.
Okay, and once we assuming we approve this position, what is the next steps from staffing standpoint? Do we know that yet? Or
Yes, sir. It would not be in the current budget year. It will be in the upcoming budget year. We would need to hire the CTE, Career Technical Education, teaching positions related to that, and most likely some sort of administrative support position.
Okay.
Whether that's a counselor or somebody that understands CTE, we're not exactly sure yet. One of the ideas that we have is for this individual to give us feedback and guidance and basically look at other programs that we might replicate ourselves after.
Okay, and I guess Mr. Golden, maybe I'll ask your direction here real quick. Since this is a budget item, is this a 1 or 2 vote item?
This budget item is a 1 vote. The proposal is to take this from fund balance. This will require 1 vote by the board. Because it is a budget item, it then would require commission approval as well, because we're in the middle of the budget year.
Okay,
So when you said 2, did you mean board then commission?
Yeah, well, no, my thought was, do we vote on it twice based upon it being budget, or,
No.
but you did remind me that what we said on Thursday is that this basically is kind of an intent, is a request to fund. I guess this has to go, well, we're taking it from our general fund.
That's
so
correct.
we don't have to go to commission for approval for this or not?
Yes, sir. It still has to go to commission.
Because the commission approved our budget with existing FTEs, we are proposing another one in the middle of a budget year, and this does go to the commission for their approval on the budget process. It's not an intent to fund as our capital outlays are, but it is an actual funding request from our fund balance.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Galbraith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just a little bit more on that line from a funding perspective. And I didn't get a chance to participate. I got to watch the 3.5-hour work session over the last couple of days. But can you explain a little bit about how this program is going to be funded, or at least supplemented? We talked a little bit about the dollars that we're requesting from outside parties.
Well, so there are 2 different pockets here.
Yep.
One is the capital investment. We have, with the leadership of Julie Euler and Dave Allen and others, Mrs. Dickerson, been talking to business leaders in the community. They have put together an 18-member advisory panel of, honestly, some pretty big hitters. And they intend on raising $2 million independent of the school district to help us equip the Entrepreneur Innovation Center with state-of-the-art equipment, including their expertise, mentoring, et cetera. So part of the capital expenses will come, we hope, from a public-private partnership. The operational expenses will come in the same way that any classroom position comes, outside of the director's position, because those students would be taking CTE classes in a school somewhere, and so that position would be allocated to the center based on the number of students that enroll. So if you think of it in the same way that you think of Renaissance High School, or if you think of the online learning program that we're currently working through, as Mr. Cash has said, it's really the same type of model. The cost per pupil is slightly higher than the norm because it's fewer students to begin with. But as we indicated in the work session, we believe that we could at some point in time serve up to 1,000 high school students in this program because of the design of it.
And thank you, that's great. And is there a way for potentially for the salary of the director to be offset or supplemented by outside parties, or is that a possibility or not?
Yes, sir. In fact, they have expressed interest in doing that. Our reservation is we don't do that for other positions in the district, and if you're talking about paying personnel, you have to have a steady stream of income coming in. So our comfort level is not there yet, but they certainly have expressed a desire to have the conversation. In particular, if we're unable to attract the type of talent that we need to attract to fill that very specific skill set.
Right. And sorry, one last question, and I just for the viewing audience at home and here, but can you talk a little bit to who will be utilizing this entrepreneurial center and where it is, because I don't think we've mentioned that tonight.
Yes, sir. It's going to be based at Franklin High School in the second half of the Columbia State campus. The first half of the campus, of the old Columbia State campus, is now being utilized as the academic space by Franklin High School. They're putting it to use. The other half, it's going to be a mixed use. Franklin High School is going to use some of the additional classroom spaces, the dance hall that we've created, and then several Franklin High School students, I imagine, will be participating in the program. Because they're so close there, I'm assuming they will have the vast majority or a high number of students that participate in that program. The program is going to serve several different types of students, and with your permission, is Julie Oyer here? Julie, if you don't mind, you're a great salesperson. You're going to do a much better job than I would articulating this. So if you don't mind, come forward. And I'm actually glad that you're asking us to do this, because this is our first commercial for the public. So, Julie, no pressure.
Right.
Dr. Oyer.
So specifically about the types of students, so the way that we're thinking about this is that and I think we should preface by saying that even within the 4 things that I'm about to outline, which we talked about last week, there are going to be variants for each of these that I say. So the first 2 that we'll start with are students who might be coming for 0 credit, and so they may be coming because they have an idea and they want to engage in this center, but they're not coming to gather credit. The first person in that group would be a student who has an idea that they want to take from A to Z. And so they're coming really to just use the space, have the experience, have a part in the mentor network, for example. Another one may be a student who is coming for no credit, who just has a service that they can offer to another team or another person. And so an example of that might be if Mrs. Cleveland has a business that she wants to do, but she knows that I'm an amazing photographer. And so she's going to ask me to join her team, and I'm going to come and do all of their photography, but I don't really want to engage with the EIC myself. I'm kind of just consulting for her team. A second type of student is a student who is going to come, or a third type is a student who is going to come and they are hoping to get post-secondary credit. So we kind of walked through that option, and Dr. Allen gave a really clear direction that it would take about 5 minutes, we feel like, for a local university to engage with us in a dual enrollment opportunity. That may be in place in the 1920 school year, especially if it really takes 5 minutes, we can make that happen. But we don't see that coming straight out of the gate. And then The other silo of students is a traditional high school student who's coming to get high school credit. And even that, in that space, that student can look different. So it could be a student who is what we think of as a traditional CTE pathway student. So they could be anywhere in that CTE pathway and are coming to engage, or they could be coming and doing what I'm kind of thinking of as a capstone, and engaging in a practicum course. And that's going to be modeled after what we know as the work-based learning. So they're going to come for X amount of hours and experience that time at the EIC, complete a portfolio, and engage in all of those pieces, the speaker series, the mentors, and really utilize that space. So those are the 4 types of students that we plan to have at the EIC.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Roy.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second on this one. Any further comments or questions? Okay, I see none. You have the director's recommendation. If you go ahead and record your votes, please.
Your vote is 12 yes, 0 no.
Thank you, Board. The next item is Education Capital Project Fund Intent to Fund Resolution for Central Elementary School. Dr. Looney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. As you'll know, we are in the final stages of working through the approval process for a property that would house an elementary school. We have already received some of the funding requests through the intent to fund for the first portion of the construction of that elementary school. This would allow us to get the remaining funds. We are on an extremely tight timeline in order for this school to open for the 1920 school year. And so we want to do everything we can to facilitate its timely opening, and this resolution will accomplish that.
Okay, anyone like to make a motion on this one? We have a motion from Mr. Fiskus. Congratulations on your first motion. Anyone like to second it? We have a second from Ms. Garrett. Any questions or comments for this one? Ms. Garrett.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to remind everybody about what's going on in this area. And from our rezoning study last year, where our rezoning manager goes in and talks to developers and gets a solid estimate of what's going on in particular areas. In this South Central area, as you may recall, there are 2,750 homes to be built. There are also, Jason, I'm going to ask you, please, how many portables are at Oakview?
Off the top of my head, now I'm trying to remember. If I'm not mistaken, there's 9.
Okay, so 9.
10. We now have 10 this year.
10 portables. That school will alleviate overcrowding, not only at the school with 10 portables, Oakview, but also at Trinity Elementary and at College Grove Elementary. So just wanted to add some numbers in there.
And if I may, since this was mentioned, that area is going to continue to experience growth. Our 10-year projections show we're still going to need some more schools in that general area.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Garrett. Anyone else have any comments or questions? Okay, I see none. You have the director's recommendation. If you go ahead and record your votes, please.
Your vote is 12 yes, 0 no.
Thank you, Board. Our next item is Education Capital Project Fund Intent to Fund Resolution for Independence High School Edition. Dr. Looney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. In this same manner, we are working at your direction to expand our high schools to meet the 2,200 student, up to 2,200 student capacity levels. This would allow us to expand Independence High School so that it could serve 2,200 students. We've received initial funding of 1 for design, and the rest of this money would help us get started on the project.
Anyone like to make a motion on this? We have a motion from Mr. Wimberly. We have a second from, I saw Mr. Welch's hand, sorry. I heard Mr. Mitchell, so Mr. Mitchell is the second. Okay, any comments, questions on this one for Independence High School edition? All right, you have the superintendent's recommendation. If you go ahead and record your votes, please.
Your vote is 12 yes, 0 no.
Thank you. The next item is Education Capital Projects Fund, intent to fund the Energy Efficiency Savings Phase 2. Dr. Looney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. As you know, we've completed Phase 1. The utility savings that we are generating is actually paying the debt or the note on this loan, and we would like to move forward with Phase 2, which would allow us to do, Mark, is that right, all the lighting retrofitting for the entire district. So we would go from standard T8s and T12s, I don't know what we're using these days, but we would go to LED lighting in all of our schools.
And Dr. Looney, if I may add to that, this also will include doing an investment grade audit on Phase 3.
Yep.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion for this. Ms. Emerson's motion. I'd like to second it. We have a second for Ms. Durham. Any further comments or questions on this particular motion? Okay, I see none. You have the director's recommendation. Please record your votes.
Your vote is 12 yes, 0 no.
Okay, thank you. We're into item 10B under new business. Board parameters for the 2019-2020 school calendar. Dr. Looney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. We're not recommending any specific parameters. Of course, that's your prerogative to establish some. We believe the calendar that we have this year works academically, and we would recommend your approval.
Okay. Mr. Golden, if we have no changes to our current, do we need a motion on this, or is the staff looking for us to make a motion on this?
Mr. Chair, there's no requirement either way. If you do want to set parameters, the board policy calls for you all to set those parameters prior to the committee's meeting. So if you don't have any parameters, they will take that as an action that there are no parameters.
Okay, does anyone want to make a motion on this one? If there is no motion, then there are no parameters. Okay, I see nothing, therefore there are no parameters that the board is recommending to the committee that puts together the school calendar. Thank you. All right, the next item is resolution of the Williamson County Board of Education to request Tennessee General Assembly adopt legislation to establish threat assessment teams. Dr. Looney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Thank you so much for engaging in that critical conversation at the work session. I really think that this is the right thing to do, and your insistence that the General Assembly provide much needed funding and some teeth to a policy to make sure that we keep our schools safe is much appreciated. I do recommend approval of this resolution.
Would anyone like to make a motion on this one? We have a motion from Mr. Mitchell. We have a second from Ms. Durham. Discussion? Mr. Wimberly.
Something struck me as I was reading this, and that is this recommendation is not suggesting that there be teams specifically hired in the schools to do threat assessments. Is that correct?
No, sir, it does not.
It's basically to form threat assessment teams using, for the most part, current resources.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Galbraith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there a reason, I thought during the work session that the motion was going to be around not allowing students to come back to school until they've, I'm talking about the wrong.
No, sir, you're talking about the right thing.
Is that right? Okay, so until they've had the psychological evaluation, right? And so That's not what we're asking here, and I'm assuming y'all had some discussion around that.
I need to let Mrs. Osbrook speak to that.
Okay.
You're on. You gotta turn it back on.
Okay. There are some legal considerations that were not discussed during the work session that would make that problematic. So in reviewing the tape and the request of the board members, this is our recommendation. In addition, just so the board is aware, this has been vetted by our county attorney as well, and I believe that a similar resolution to this will be sponsored by Sheriff Long to take to the Sheriff's Association and by Judge Guffey to take to the Juvenile Judges Conference. So we've been collaborating with them, and I feel comfortable with this resolution going to TSBA.
Great. Thank you.
Okay with that. Any other questions on this resolution, proposed resolution? Okay, I see none. We have a motion, a second, and the director's recommendation. If you agree with this, please go ahead and record your vote yes. If you don't agree, it will be no.
Your vote is 12 yes, 0 no.
Thank you. The next item is a resolution of the Williamson County Board of Education to support the exemption of military veterans, reservists, and National Guard members from the age requirement to drive school buses. Dr. Looney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. If you don't mind, I want to thank you publicly for supporting this concept. As you know, after the horrific accident involving a bus driver and some students, the state last year changed the minimum age requirement to be able to get us a bus license from 24 to 25. And as we've processed that and considering the number of bus drivers that we are always short, it occurred to us that we have people that have served in the military drive tanks and heavy equipment all day long in a safe way, and they could not come and be a bus driver, and that just doesn't make sense to us. And thank you so much for your support of this. I think this is a home run hit for this board, and I believe it will hopefully be on a fast track through the legislature this session, so that people with military experience that have proven that they can handle heavy equipment are allowed also to drive a school bus with the proper endorsement.
Would anyone like to make a motion on this one? We have a motion from Ms. Emerson. Anyone like to second it? Second by Mr. Hall. Dr. Looney, these two resolutions, if passed, are going to go to TSBA for their support at their convention, correct?
Yes, sir. They'll go to TSBA, they'll go to TOS, and to every other entity that we can muster to get support from.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion and a second. Anyone else like to comment on this particular resolution? Okay, I see them. If you'd go ahead then and record your votes, please.
Your vote is 12 yes, 0 no.
All right, that's the end of our regular agenda. I personally would like to congratulate all the board members who were elected and sworn in tonight. Congratulations on your next adventure in school board. It's a great thing. Let's see, Mr. Cash, you would like a moment of privilege?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, we sit here and discuss a lot of different things that are happening and all the different schools that are opening and construction and whatnot, and I'd just like to thank some folks, if you don't mind taking the time. I'd like to take this time to thank Kevin Fortney publicly. I know he hates that, but
Kevin, your mic is on if you'd like to give a speech.
Thank you.
But you know, his dedication to these kids in Williamson County schools is unbelievable. 3 new schools opened, and in the meantime, he's running around on 5 other construction sites where he's got work going. And I just thank him personally for giving me a call on several occasions and asking me if I'd like to walk through the schools, Thompson Station schools, at different phases. And his keen eye for let me get where I for detail is amazing in the area of safety, security, lighting, restroom designs, what kind of flooring is going to be in those places, finishes, cafeteria, cooking areas, ventilation systems, geothermal, HVAC, and so on. All this being said, Kevin's goal was to meet the needs of our students and teachers, making these new schools user-friendly, a home away from home. But this isn't a one-man job, is it? Construction is a huge task, but what comes with it during and after completion comes the furnishing of these schools: desks, labs, libraries, books, shelving of every kind, boards, screens, cubbies, organization of the offices, setting up PTOs, hiring teachers and staff. A big thanks to our principals, Robert Bohr from Thompson Station Elementary, Paula Waits from Thompson Station Middle, and Chad Walker from Jordan Elementary, and their staffs. I've been in these schools, especially Thompson Station, in and out of them. I've been in and out of their offices at Bethesda and Summit. These folks worked their hearts out to get these schools prepared for these kids. So they need a big thanks. To those here at Central Office and our school board, for your long and short-term planning, your vision, launching a new pilot program for online training, new science curriculum, as I mentioned earlier, and now we're working on a social studies curriculum. Our CTE programs are unbelievable. Thank you, Julie and Dave, for your passion for this. And now the Innovation Center, or the Entrepreneurial Center. This all goes hand in hand. We are giving our kids every opportunity in the world to be successful. And that's thinking out of the box. But what about budgets? Not only curriculums that we saved millions of dollars on. Security, zoning work, working with local municipalities trying to get sewers put in, infrastructure put in. The dedication from this group of folks here is just overwhelming at times. It's overwhelming the challenges that we've had in this county in the last 18 months. And sometimes it's hard to believe we started school. Along with the construction of schools come more challenges for our team, hiring and staffing. 330 plus teachers hired this year, and that rate's going up every month because of more and more people enrolling their children in our schools. We had 150 employees retire this year. 12 of them from key positions here at Central Office. Upgrades in technology throughout training people. Our bus maintenance people, keeping 260 buses on the road. Moving 25,000 kids every morning and every afternoon. With 6,300 employees, 40,000 students, parents, and hundreds of volunteers. is what makes this happen. It's a highly dedicated, motivated workforce here in Williamson County. And with all that being said, one goal that's all in common is what we're doing for our children. That is our main job, every one of us, for the betterment of our kids. And I just want you all to know that I am just honored and privileged to serve each and every person on this great team called Williamson County Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Well said. Appreciate that. Okay, that is the end of our agenda for this evening. This meeting is adjourned.